Right now, as you watch this video, a small organ in your chest is doing something extraordinary. It is pumping blood through your entire body, delivering oxygen to every single cell, and it has been doing this every second of every day since before you were born. This is your heart, and its story is far more incredible than you might think. Your heart is roughly the size of your fist, and it sits slightly to the left of center in your chest, nestled between your lungs. It weighs only about 11 ounces, roughly the same as a can of soda. Despite its modest size, it is the hardest working muscle in your entire body. It beats around 100,000 times every single day, pumping about 2,000 gallons of blood through 60,000 miles of blood vessels. To put that in perspective, that network of vessels could wrap around the earth more than twice. But how does the heart actually work? Let's zoom in. Your heart has 4 chambers, 2 on top called atria, and 2 on the bottom called ventricles. Think of them as 2 separate pumps working side by side, each with its own important job. The right side collects oxygen-poor blood from your body and sends it to the lungs, while the left side receives oxygen-rich blood from the lungs and pumps it out to every organ and tissue. This elegant design means your blood actually makes 2 complete loops through your heart with every single circuit of your body. The journey begins when oxygen-depleted blood flows into the right atrium through 2 large veins, the superior vena cava from your upper body, and the inferior vena cava from below. From there, it passes through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle, which contracts and pushes the blood into the pulmonary artery toward your lungs. In the lungs, something remarkable happens. Carbon dioxide is released from the blood and swapped for fresh oxygen, turning the dark maroon blood bright red again. This process happens across 300 million tiny air sacs called alveoli, giving your lungs a total surface area roughly the size of a tennis court. This freshly oxygenated blood then flows back to the heart through the pulmonary veins, entering the left atrium. Now here is where things get really powerful. The left ventricle is the true powerhouse of the heart. Its walls are 3 times thicker than the right ventricle because it needs to generate enormous pressure to send blood all the way down to your toes and back up again. When it contracts, blood rockets through the aortic valve into the aorta, the largest artery in your body, nearly as wide as a garden hose. From the aorta, blood branches into smaller and smaller arteries, then into arterioles, and finally into the tiniest vessels of all, capillaries. These capillaries are so incredibly small that red blood cells have to squeeze through them in single file, deforming their shape just to fit. A single capillary is about 1/10 the width of a human hair. This is where the real exchange happens. Oxygen and nutrients pass through the thin capillary walls into your cells, while waste products like carbon dioxide move in the opposite direction. It is a delivery system so efficient that every single cell in your body is never more than a few cells away from a capillary. Your body contains roughly 10 billion capillaries, and if you laid them all end to end, they would stretch over 25,000 miles. But what makes the heart beat in the first place? Unlike your biceps or your leg muscles, your heart does not wait for a signal from your brain to contract. It has its own built-in electrical system called the cardiac conduction system. The signal starts at a tiny cluster of about 10,000 specialized cells in the upper right atrium called the sinoatrial node, or SA node, your natural pacemaker. This remarkable node fires an electrical impulse about 60 to 100 times per minute, completely on its own, and that impulse spreads across both atria like a wave, causing them to contract simultaneously. The signal then reaches another node called the atrioventricular node, or AV node, which acts as a gatekeeper. It deliberately pauses the signal for about 1/10 of a second, giving the atria just enough time to finish pushing blood into the ventricles before the ventricles contract. This precise timing is critical, and it is what creates the familiar lube-dub sound of your heartbeat. The lube is the sound of the mitral and tricuspid valves closing as the ventricles begin to squeeze, and the dub is the aortic and pulmonary valves snapping shut when the ventricles relax. Each heartbeat lasts roughly 0.8 of a second, and the cycle repeats without pause. Your heart is also remarkably adaptable to whatever your body needs. When you sprint up a flight of stairs, it can double or even triple its output, pumping up to 20 liters of blood per minute instead of the usual 5. Your heart rate can jump from 70 to over 180 beats per minute in just seconds. When you sleep, it slows down to conserve energy, sometimes dipping below 50 beats per minute. Professional athletes like marathon runners often have resting heart rates as low as 40 beats per minute because their hearts have become so efficient that each beat pumps significantly more blood than an average person's heart. The heart even has its own dedicated blood supply, the coronary arteries. These small but vital vessels branch off from the very base of the aorta and wrap around the outside of the heart like a crown, which is actually where their name comes from, corona meaning crown in Latin. They deliver the oxygen and nutrients the heart muscle itself needs to keep working around the clock. When these arteries get narrowed or blocked by cholesterol plaque buildup, a process called atherosclerosis, that is what causes a heart attack. Part of the heart muscle is starved of oxygen and begins to die within minutes. This is why cardiovascular health and keeping your arteries clear matters so much. Here are some numbers that might blow your mind. Your heart generates enough pressure with each beat to squirt blood nearly 30 feet across a room. Over an average lifetime of 75 years, it will beat approximately 2.5 billion times without ever stopping to rest. It will pump enough blood to fill over 100 Olympic-sized swimming pools. No other muscle in your body even comes close to that level of endurance. And the heart starts working incredibly early in your development. Just 22 days after conception, when the embryo is smaller than a grain of rice, a tiny tube of cells begins to pulse with its first beat. At this point, the heart is not even fully formed yet, but it is already pumping fluid to nourish the growing embryo. By 8 weeks, the four-chambered structure is complete, beating steadily at around 150 beats per minute, nearly twice the rate of an adult heart. From that very first flutter, it never stops, not once, for your entire life. So the next time you feel your pulse, take a moment to appreciate what is happening beneath your skin. A fist-sized organ weighing less than a pound is orchestrating a symphony of electrical signals, muscular contractions, and fluid dynamics, all working in perfect harmony. It keeps every single one of your 37 trillion cells alive and functioning. Your heart is not just a pump. It is the most reliable machine ever built by nature, and it has been running non-stop since the very day you began.